Good evening and welcome into the Smith County Insider Candidate Forum, hosted by Smith County Insider and the Smith County Chamber of Commerce. I'm J.R. Smith. Election Day is coming up. In fact, early voting actually started today. As you know, Election Day is November the 3rd, and that means that you need to get to know your candidates, and that's what this forum is for tonight. We reached out to every single candidate running for an office that you might be voting for here in Smith County, and 5 responded to our calls, and all 5 are with us tonight. We're going to start with the U.S. House of Representatives, the 5th District, and our first speaker is Democrat Chris Finley. Mr. Finley, if you'll come up to the podium.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here tonight. I remember as a kid or in high school driving up here, riding on school buses and having some great athletic competitions in high school basketball and high school football. It was some really good times. Of course, you know, I'm a very simple man, really. I graduated from White County High School, went to Tennessee Tech, major in accounting with a minor in history. I'm like you. I'm just a working guy. I haven't been on a high horse or anything like that. And my dad taught me a work ethic. He was a banker for 33 years in White County, and he was also a farmer. So I spent a lot of summers out on the farm doing a lot of hard work, putting myself through college. One thing I learned is never take anything for granted. That's something my father taught me, and I do feel truly that our members in Congress are taking us for granted. Now, years ago, I worked for a little fellow that was a local individual here named Al Gore. And he made a promise to everyone to do town hall meetings. And until he went to Senate, he had town hall meetings every month, usually every weekend. And he managed to cover all the counties that were in this district at that time. Now, there are not as many as there used to be. There used to be about 23. But now there's just 19, really. And I really think that that is important because this is a representative democracy. And if you don't have access to your congressman or congresswoman, as the case may be, then how would you even have a voice? Really, honestly. And Bart Gordon did the same thing, and then in the intervening years, everyone seemed to have just gotten away from that. So that if your congressman does something that you don't like, you should be able to, at one point during the month, find a place where you can meet with them and talk to them about it. And, you know, that to me is one of the main reasons that I'm running. Now, early on in my opponent's term in Congress, he voted against House Resolution 1327. I'm sure he's going to give you a really nice explanation why he did that. But to me, when you have 8 representatives of the 9 representatives in the U.S. Congress that vote for something, it's really odd that you vote against it, especially when it talks about our first responders. These are our firemen, our policemen, the people that hold the fabric of our society together. You should never really turn your back on. Now, you can look it up. I'm not going to tell you the details of the bill. It's House Resolution 1327. But when I saw that vote going against these firefighters and these first responders, that's when I decided, I made up my mind that I was going to run for Congress. And again, my name's Chris Finley, and I'm humbly asking your vote. I'm just a working guy like you, not a multi-millionaire that's going to go out here and try to buy your vote, just a working class guy. And thank you for this time to talk to you, and I hope you have a blessed night.
Sticking with the U.S. House of Representatives for the 6th District, next up is Republican John Rose. Mr. Rose.
Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be with you all here tonight in Smith County, and it is a significant privilege for me to serve you as the representative for the 6th District of Tennessee. Many of you know that I have spent my career prior to this service as a businessman and farmer. In fact, my roots are right here in Smith County. My family arrived here in 1790 in the Lancaster community, and I, along with my wife and our son Guy, are the proud custodians of that legacy. My little boy, Guy, will be the 9th generation of my family to live and work and farm the land right here in Smith County, Tennessee. So it was a real privilege to have the opportunity to be elected to represent the people of my county and the people of the 18 other counties across the 6th District of Tennessee. And I've been now serving for almost 22 months, and I can tell you, and I don't have to tell you, but it's a real mess in Washington. I ran for Congress because my belief is that the country that we may pass on to our children, to my son Guy, and to your children and grandchildren, could well be worse than the country that our parents passed along to us. And I believe my family, my wife and I were raised in Christian homes where we were taught that you're supposed to give back and you're supposed to leave things better than you found them. And so I ran with the belief that we need to make sure that the country we pass on to our children and grandchildren is better than the country that our parents passed along to us. How do we do that? The answer, I think, is deceivingly simple. The answer is the Tennessee values that we use to live our lives by every day right here in Tennessee are needed desperately in Washington. Having now served for almost 2 years, I can tell you that is exactly true. So I commit to you that if you re-elect me to represent you in the U.S. House of Representatives, I'll continue to vote every day applying the values that we use to live our lives here in Tennessee, making sure that we pay our bills, that we balance the budget, and that we are true to the traditions and the values that have made our state the great state that it is to live in. By contrast, we need to get Washington out of Tennessee. We need to fight to make sure that we can live our lives the way we see fit, freely and openly expressing our faith in our Creator and defending the values that are so important to Tennesseans. So if you send me back to Washington, I pledge to you that I will continue to support our president in his agenda and his vision to make America great again, to rebuild the economy that he built that we were enjoying just in February, to have the greatest economy in the history of the country, which was true up until February. And so I'll work hard to support the president to see that that's done. I'll work hard to make sure that we defend our border, that we provide for the nation's defense by supporting our military, that we defend the Second Amendment, that we work hard to defend the unborn and protect life, and that we continue to work hard to keep this government in check by reducing the burdensome regulations that so often stand in the way of the American people. It is an awesome responsibility to represent you in Congress, and I work hard every day to do that, and my family, along with me, have made the commitment to represent you, and we pledge that we will continue to do that over the next 2 years if you give us that opportunity. So tonight, I humbly ask for your vote and hope that you will give me the chance to continue to represent the great people of the 19 counties that comprise the 6th District of Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Now we're going to turn our attention to the Gordonsville mayoral race. We have 3 candidates, and they're all here tonight. Our first one that's going to speak tonight is Ronnie Burton. So, Mr. Burton, if you'll come on up to the podium.
Well, thank you, JR. As JR said, I am Ronnie Burton. I am running for Gordonsville City Mayor. And I have lived in Gordonsville or Smith County all my life, but I have not worked in this county. Worked from Mississippi to the northeast to Canada. All the money I've made has been spent, majority has been spent here because I built a house, and the biggest highlight that I put in for company, I worked for Strawberry Carlson in Rochester, New York. And the reason why I went to New York, because most of the factories here didn't pay any money. Matter of fact, I thought I was going to get rich leaving the county and leaving the city, but I went to work. I was making $1.65 an hour working here. Went to work for $2 a nickel an hour in Rochester, New York. It don't make a lot of sense, does it? But anyway, got promoted. I've worked as an installer and worked manager of projects. And the biggest project I worked for was Bell South. I put in 114 switches in Mississippi, 39 in Louisiana, and 55 in Tennessee. Now 55 in Tennessee, and you guys, a lot of you know Don Fox. Don Fox was the operation manager for Bell South. That's who I worked for. So that was, in 10 years, we had a contract to do $100 million worth of equipment, finished it in 8 years. And then I quit and went to work for United Communications as a manager there, and I worked as a central office manager for 5 years, and then became operations manager for 15 years. And that operations manager I worked for those 15 years, got 200 hours plus hours for RDUP, the Rural Development Utilities Program. I also did purchasing, had $1 million worth of equipment in the warehouse, did all the building maintenance, took care of 31 generators. I had 8 direct reporting employees. Also had 49 employees working there, and most of them reported to me. I also worked for TDOT for the utilities relocation. So the utilities program, what we did was we moved a lot of those for TDOT, and we did the grounding in all of the outside plant and moved poles and telephone poles for them. And then a lot of it was done with estimate, and then after it was done, estimate was actual. TDOT paid for most of this, but I worked in 8 counties for utilities for United Communications. But anyway, it's all I have, and appreciate your vote, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Our next candidate for Gordonsville mayor is Milton Gibbs. Mr. Gibbs, if you'll come on up to the podium.
My name is Milton Gibbs. They've called me Duck for all my life. I have lived in Gordonsville all my life. I ran a business there for 35 years. I farmed all my life, and I spent 24 years on the county commissioner. And I have been the mayor for 10 years. Now, I figured most of these guys are going to tell you what they had in mind. I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to hit the high spots on what we have done for the last 10 years. I'm going to start with the fire department. The fire department in 2010 had 2 engines, one which was on the river down at the boat ramp, and the other was in Old City Hall on Fairview. Well, we had a deal with Rogers Group, and we moved. They had a building up there, and they let us have it, and we used it for 8 years for $100 a year. In 2018, we built a new fire station. We bought 7/10 of acres of land from the railroad, and we give $32,000 for it, and we spent approximately $625,000–$30,000 on that fire station, all of which was paid out of the general fund. The police, I'm gonna go on the police department. In 2010, there was 3 police officers, 2 part-time, 3 cars. Now we have 6 full-time, 2 part-time, and probably 9 cars. Sanitation, we have bought 2 pickup trucks, over the past 10 years, 2 Bobcats, and 1 new sanitation truck, which cost $125,000. That was paid all out of the general fund. Oh, now, and street aid. This, when I ran the very first time, our streets, especially the one I lived on, was terrible. In the past 10 years, we have about 64 miles of streets in the town of Gordonsville. And that's not counting 53, 40, 141, and 264. We have paved all of those streets with the exception of two main streets and three small ones at the tune of about $1.5 million. That's on paving and sidewalks. All of that was paid out of general fund. Now, the one that has been really the problem, and we had any problem with, was sewer. In 2011, I was up on Lisa Drive, and Mark Webster was up there doing, it was raining cats and dogs, and he came up and he said, Duck, he said, you've got to have something up here. He said, this is sitting on a flat rock. I told him, I said, Mark, I can't put in any sewer, it's too expensive. He said, yeah, you can. I said, well, so we went to look, and that was in 2011. It took us 4 years before that we tried for grants, 20/80, 50/50, couldn't get, so we finally got a loan. So we started putting in it was in Shady Rest up there, and it was nothing. Well, and the first one was put in Spring Valley, but a flat rock. And we had borrowed money from USDA, from State Revival and Rural Development. But we finally got the first one in. And to get back to the old sewer, when the old sewer was in, they put it in about 90, it was probably went into operation 94, 95, and they had 100 customers. 2010, they had 110. Sewer is an enterprise fund, and it has to stand on itself, and it's all done with government money. Cannot take any out of your account there. It's just to pay for that, it has to stand on its own. And sewer has a funny thing called depreciation. As you go along, this equipment, it depreciates, and you make your payments, and when you're making your payments, you come back, and you may have $400,000 or $500,000 in the bank, and when they do your books and they audit your books, they come in, they tell you you're in the red because you're over on your depreciation. So we had to do something, and we had two subdivisions. The one at Shady Rest and one at Rose Hill, which your daddy built. And those subdivisions were beginning to get some age on them. They were 30, some of them 30, some of those houses in Rose Hill were nearly 50 years old. And they were about half-acre lots. So you knew you were going to start having some problem out of these sewer. So we put in, and we got a total loan from USDA through Rural Development for, it was a $3 million and $800,000 of it was free money or grant money on the tail end as we put it in. Well, after we got started, and like I said, our sewer account was in the red. We were absolutely in the red. All right. We put that first one in 2016. We put another one in on Shady Rest and Meadow Drive out there on 2017, and another one in 2018. All right, as we started on, the only thing about this is this money came in, and there was a little stickler to that. If it comes through, and this is from USDA, it's a requirement, that if you don't hook on, you have to pay a minimum sewer bill, and ours is $27. That's either you have the sewer bill, the sewer, and you have to go by the federal guidelines, or you don't have the sewer. It's neither here nor there. All right, the good part of it is, after we got in, and then last year then, when we got Rose Hill, we got those pictures, we had picked our customers up from approximately 110 to nearly almost 230 to 240 customers. That original sewer note was done in 1991 or 2 or 3, was supposed to have been paid off in 2020. Where they got behind and they did not add any customers and their expenses got up, they were either raising rates or they had to extend the note. And they had that note extended off to 2047. And the state came up, and then from 2010 to 2015, we had to raise rates twice. After we got the customers, we got to there and we got some income coming in, guess what? 2018, we paid that old note off, $400 and something thousand at a 4% rate. Supposed to have been paid off in 2020, but it was extended to 2047. Okay, after we did that then this year, we paid off that first section that was put up in Spring Valley. It was about $400,000. That old note was 4%. That first one there was 2%, and the rest that we've got is like 13875. Less than 2%. And I have received a lot of comments about the sewer, and I know there's a lot of people, but anytime that you use federal money, they tell you what to do, and they give you all the rules, all the regulations. We apply for the money, we turn our bills in, and what we do, they send them to them. 3 people in Coolville have to sign off of it. Then they send it back, and we pay the people, and they pay their vendors. They just don't send it to us and say, there it is, you spend it. It's not that way. It's just, that is just a little of what's been going on. And if I'm elected mayor again, I will continue to do this as I have done for the last 10 years. Our city, our tax rate was 86 cents, now it's 76 and some odd cents, and it was due for they had reappraisals for the years of term. But our tax rate is down almost 10 cents. I'm proud of that, and as I said, if I'm elected mayor, I will continue to work as I have for the last 10 years. And said I would appreciate your vote and support in the November race. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Our final candidate for the Gordonsville mayoral race is John Potts. Mr. Potts.
Good evening. My name is John Potts, and I'm running for the mayor of Gordonsville. I would like to thank the viewers at home, the Smith County Insider, and the Smith County Chamber of Commerce for putting this on tonight. I have been honored to serve on the Gordonsville City Council for the last 4 years. I have also served as vice mayor for the last year and a half, which we have helped accomplish the goals the current mayor spoke of. I have worked for the city in a maintenance role for the past 8 years, and I am familiar with the ins and outs of our town and how it works. I'm not here to promise anything that I can't back up with action. I can't promise to reduce my salary as mayor to give it back to the community. I am not retired or looking for a hobby. I am seeking election as a full-time mayor of Gordonsville, and I'm willing to sacrifice a very good full-time job into pursuing this office. I may have not managed huge budgets or other businesses or been mayor before, but I know I can and will be a good mayor. I want to see our town be relevant in our county, and I want to encourage businesses to come to our town to provide new jobs, which in turn provides taxes and revenue to our community. Lebanon and Cookeville are growing on either side. We have unique access to the interstate. We will grow as well. It's inevitable. People want to live in small communities like ours while being able to go to surrounding cities to work and pleasure. Just look at the number of houses being built in the city and in the county. But it's almost impossible to find a house to rent or to buy. We have had several prime commercial lots just sold at auction in Gordonsville, and I expect there will be new business there before long. We are a growing town, a growing county, but I want to make sure that this is good, healthy growth, and that we as residents have an input to see how our town grows and the changes around us. I don't want to lose sight of our small town beliefs and our values. We can't afford to be left behind. I don't want any more missed opportunities for jobs and businesses in Gordonsville. Our mayor needs to be available to answer questions and concerns for its residents, and I want to be that person. I want to be involved in our town and its activities to be the face of our great town. I have been involved with Gordonsville and its activities for many years. This just didn't happen with the election. I have a vested interest in my hometown. I have volunteered with our local food drive during the initial months of COVID, when kids were home and needed these meals that were normally provided by the schools. I have been involved with the youth at our church, taking kids to camp and retreats year after year. I have volunteered with VBS and the Upwards program. My family has donated time, money, snacks, and meals to numerous school teams and events. We are especially big supporters of the Gordonsville Tigerette basketball team. I was part of the core group that took the annual Halloween bash to the next level. We have worked with many local businesses, residents, and churches, as well as the Gordonsville Police Department, the Chamber of Commerce, TDOT, to make this event happen. We were in the process of having a community-wide Easter egg hunt when Corona hit and changed our plans. The same group has been planning on many different events in our city and in our community. I want Gordonsville to be a thriving community. This requires active involvement in our local Chamber of Commerce, Upper Cumberland Development District, and various other organizations. The mayor must be up to date, current, and aware of rules, laws, and recommendations. I have maintained the required continuing education hours for serving on the council, which is about 15 at this time. As mayor, I am eager to work with our council, not only to keep me accountable for the things that I do, but makes appropriate and educated decisions for the residents and businesses for the town of Gordonsville. I can't promise to lower taxes. In fact, it should be noted that the tax rate is set by the current property appraisals, not by the mayor alone. In closing, my wife and I have lived in Gordonsville for most of our lives. We have chose to raise our 2 kids here. We've graduated from school in Gordonsville. We are members of the Gordonsville First Baptist Church. We love our small town and couldn't imagine living anywhere else. I would appreciate your support in the early elections and the election on November 3rd, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Potts. Well, that's all the candidates that signed up to talk to you, the people, tonight. I guess now the important thing to say is get out and go vote. Election day is November the 3rd. Early voting starting today. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. Just make sure that you go out, do your civic duty, and go out and vote. This has been the Smith County Insider Candidate Forum, hosted by Smith County Insider and the Smith County Chamber of Commerce. I'm J.R. Smith. See you next time.